And good evening, Lived Black Experience community, family, supporters. We are back for another episode of community dialogues. And tonight we want to talk about the courageous resiliency of hope. And I'm really excited about this conversation, this exchange, and the guest men of God that we have to lead us in this conversation. I'm always leery, and even being a part of the clergy, a woman of the cloth, using the word hope. Um, I prefer to use expectation because I think as our faith grows, as we transition, as we mature in our spirituality and our walk with our Creator, then that causes, um, I think, our hope, our faith to go from faith to faith, from level to level, and at some point, hope should turn into a level of expectation. Because as you have seen the works and the miracles and have experienced those in your life, at some point, I think that you should be able to say that I expect. I've seen the Most High bring we as a people through so much as a people and in our personal lives. And so that experience, that maturity uh, in my walk with the Most High causes me now to expect that we will continue. If we do what we are supposed to do, we can always expect that our God will deliver us always in our time of need. Good evening, Sister Kara. How are you?
Good evening. I'm well, and I am very grateful for that introduction you just gave. I think it's so important, and I hope that it frames sort of the conversation that we'll be listening to this evening. It's ironic that you, uh, at least for me personally, that you use that phrase of expectation. I had something happen earlier today with my personal life where I shared with a friend that I was looking at a situation that was unfolding with anticipation but not expectation. And I felt very proud of that, that phrasing at the time. And now I'm just reflecting on that and thinking, should I not have been looking at it the other way with a bit more expectation, um, coming into it with that level of hope rather than anticipation, which I think treaded or leaned more towards the side of fear of what would or would not happen. And so I look forward to hearing how our guests this evening just talk about their understanding of what hope is and what it does, particularly for us as members of the African diaspora and just in community and in communion with each other and as a people, and also just that understanding of what it means to be courageously resilient in that hope, and how hope takes action and leads us forward and keeps us from falling into despair or fear. So I'm very much looking forward to that conversation. And I will share with our audience this evening that we're going to be doing this format a little bit differently than we typically do, out of respect and consideration for our guests this evening who have their own time commitments and things that they have going on. This is going to be an opportunity for us to really listen into a powerful conversation between two reverends in our community as they talk about their experience with hope, their understanding of hope, and how it contributes to our ongoing struggles for equality and equity, justice, and human rights. So there may be minimal engagement from us as the facilitators, but I think it's a wonderful opportunity for us to just sit at the feet, as it were, and listen and learn. And so we invite anyone who's watching us this evening to do the same and to just kind of bathe in the conversation that we'll get to be part of tonight. It is my honor to introduce you to our speakers this evening, who are Reverend Jeff Kennedy and Reverend Corey Moore, who is transitioning into his home, I believe, at the moment. So he may be off camera for a moment, but he'll still be chatting with us. And I'm going to give them just an opportunity to introduce themselves very quickly, and then we'll just let you guys take over the conversation.
Go ahead and start.
I'm Reverend Jeff Kennedy. I'm the senior pastor of First Missionary Baptist Church in Flagstaff. We're located at 219 South Eldon in Flagstaff on the corner of Butler and Eldon. We're about a block and a half east of the Murdoch Center. And it's been an honor and a privilege to be called to that position. It's a wonderful congregation. The church has been in Flagstaff for 109 years, and just a rich history on as part of the South Side community of Flagstaff. And so, in that role, it's a great responsibility, but it is no burden. It is only a privilege and an honor to be able to serve the Lord in that way. So I embrace the opportunity to have this conversation. I think oftentimes when the word hope comes up in the natural, we think of it one way, and I believe that it's just a small shift in our thinking that can change what we hope for, meaning what we wish for, and really don't think that we have any control over what may happen. We're just hoping for the best or wishing for the best, as opposed to our biblical understanding of hope, which is an earnest expectation of something extraordinary or remarkable or good happening as God works in our lives and helps to work us through our life. So one statement that was made as we came on was, when you understand hope as an earnest expectation, it levels up your faith. And I truly believe that it is the power, it is the fuel that actually moves your faith from one place to another, from faith to faith and to a higher level. And so my hope is that as we engage in this conversation, Pastor Moore, that we'll be able to impress upon everyone who's watching and listening that as a child of God, there are inherent rights and privileges that come with that. And part of those rights and privileges is an earnest expectation of something good. And that is what hope is.
Yes, sir. It looks like my bandwidth for this computer is not up to speed, so I'm gonna probably switch back to my phone.
I had a little bit of difficulty hearing you, Reverend Moore. So hopefully, as we'll be able to get a little bit better connection. But I want to go back to something, Kara, that you said as we were coming on, that you had a situation earlier in the day where you said that you didn't expect, and the challenge that you're having now is you evaluate that mindset in that conversation. Should you have expected more? And I think that as we walk through this life, and hopefully we have a vision of what our best life looks like. We when we look at a situation, I don't look at a situation, and I'm not saying that I don't consider the worst that can happen. I just don't focus on that. I focus on the best outcome. And so if I'm having dialogue with someone, or whether even if it's a difficult dialogue, if I'm faced with a challenge in life, I quickly transition from what might be bad, what might even be horrific, what may be difficult, what may appear to be impossible, and begin the process of what is the best possible outcome here? And how can I affect, influence the best possible outcome? And so it starts with a prayer. And the prayer is quite simply, you know, Jesus, help me, or God, are you with me, or be with me in this moment. Anoint me with the skill and ability that I need to function with and serve you with excellence so that you'll be glorified. And then we begin the action steps that go along with that faith, that earnest expectation that we are going to achieve the best possible outcome given that scenario.
Thank you, Reverend Kennedy. Sorry about that. I tried to switch to my home computer and it did not work out well. So I had to switch back to my phone just for the sake of time and to avoid trying to wrestle with some bandwidth issues. Um, but I'm Reverend Corey Moore. I'm the pastor of Harbor Chapel AME Church in Flagstaff, Arizona, one of the oldest African American churches in the community. And I currently serve to the best of our ability. We say that we are the church with the heart of the mountain. And so we believe in loving our people and serving our people and helping our people grow and develop. And the message of hope is one of those messages that I probably preach about a lot, because we are a people of hope. We are a people that have found this self rooted in this ideal of hope. I know that at one time we were a great people, and history had its I just say its impact upon it. But in coming into this country, and most of us being brought into this country, and rather um, carried into this country, um, develop within our people this drive to continue to persist on, from the day that they were captured on the land of Africa, to their fight on the ocean to try to maintain their identity and their dignity and their freedom, to arriving on the lands of this country we now dwell in. We have fought with the hope of wanting to maintain and reassure ourselves that we are free. And so I think our ancestors pushed themselves and drove the ideal into each and every one of us that there is more for us than what was being given to us. And over time, we have acquired some things, but the time to set down our hope is not yet. There are still things that we wrestle with. There are still things that we must overcome. And there's still a great deal of hope we need, not just for ourselves, but for the generations that comes after us. So I'm glad to have this conversation and to talk about the resilience that's within our people. And let's see where we can take it.
Reverend Moore, and thank you for that. And as we process through this dialogue, let's look at our environment, our young people, and what they face in their culture and in this time right now. And we can go back and we can look at what have been the limitations that we've experienced culturally, some of the horrors that we've experienced culturally. But I want to take it a step further because I believe that we always have to be looking towards a better future and how we make that happen. And so I was having the conversation just last night, and we were talking about what it looks like for someone that has only experienced poverty. They haven't they haven't yet had any type of success in their life or a view of what that looks like, whether or not it's someone in their family who's graduated from college, or they've been successful on a job, or whatever. They've only experienced what looks like limitation, oppression, setback, few opportunities. And so they don't have a clear vision board. Okay, we can go in and say, hey, make a vision board. Pick a place on the map that you want to visit. And they're like, hey, listen, I'm just trying to get a hot meal. I'm just trying to get through my day without without having to deal with some of the issues that we deal with. How can we create a situation for them to where hope actually comes alive, to where it's vibrant and it has color and it's something that they can reach for and grasp, that they can actually get their heart around? Because for so many people that have never experienced success in their life, it's hard to imagine that things are going to get much better. You're just trying to survive from day to day.
Hmm. Uh-huh. And I agree with you. There is a need for us to look at what the future has to offer, those who come after us, and those who are here currently, especially in the generation to come. I Part of me see a world where our children, unlike our great grandparents, have a different vision of view of life. There's more access to things. There's more ability to see the rest of the world than what generations before was unable to do. What I know is difficult in a lot of respects, and you kind of mention it, is that if you don't know any better, or if you don't know any difference, how can you visualize anything different? And so it's finding ways to create that opportunity. I'm one of those individuals. I grew up in the hearing oriented projects of Chicago, Illinois, and I pretty much saw gang, drugs, prostitution, and all of that stuff. That was life to me. That was the way people, and there were people in our community that went to work and had jobs, but they didn't stand out as opposed to those who was doing what they needed to do because they thought it was what they needed to do to survive. And so the first time I left home, and this is probably a 4 square mile area, if that. But the first time I got outside of that space and went to Texas, I saw a couple of young brothers their own business, and back then they had their own little pager business. And I'm like, man, they can do that. Like he like 20. He got a pager business. Like, what is that? Like, it was new to me, but it opened up my eyes to the potential that there was more in life than what I saw, than selling what you needed to sell to get the cars and clothes and all of that stuff. I never saw that before from that context. And again, it wasn't that it wasn't present. It just wasn't visible to me, and I didn't see it. And what stood out was what I knew. But having witnessed that, it changed my perception on my own potential. And I think that may help some of those who are still in that place. But also being in that place comes with a mindset that needs to change as well. And so it's not just seeing what they can do, it's helping them to adjust their mindset so that they come to believe in that potential, and they come to see what they are capable of doing. And the reason why I kind of like this idea of resilience is because one time I was working with a young brother who was doing this thing, and he had his role in this position in the gang, and he was doing all of this stuff. And I'm like, so let's look at it. Like, you are a leader, you have leadership skills, you're leading the gang. Those are skills you can use in the business, in a career, in other fields. You can lead. There's no question about your leadership. You have the ability. You're just not applying it in appropriate places. You know how to sell and market product. Like, you can use those skills to help you sell and market things that's a little bit more legit than what you are doing. And so helping them to make those connections to me was important, because once they see their ability, their resiliences, the self-efficacy that they had to endure the lifestyle that they were enduring, they were able to see what it is that they can turn their life into and the potential that still exists.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think that situation that you described is how we have to figure out a way to reach people at the point of their need. And you were able to see it. You saw what success could look like, and that gave you a vision for your own life. and inspired you in that way. So if we're talking about that part of the population that really has not seen it, we have to take it to them. We have to show them. You have to have those conversations. And I don't know, I don't believe that we're doing a good enough job at that. I know there's programs and there's certain people, there's aspects where we're trying, but I think that we can always do more in taking the vision for better to people. And you and I, as as ministers, as pastors of the church, we know, we experience it every week. We can wait for people to come in our doors, and they may or may not come. More people are passing by than are actually stopping and coming in. And so we have to find that place where they know that they can find what they need, the hope to to build on their resilience, that natural resilience that people have. People are tough. Our people are tough. We can survive. We have survived a lot. We will find a way, but we also have to have a vision for what is better. And if they're not coming through our doors, then we got to go to them. I
Yes.
wanted to share with you, and if you don't mind, a couple of places, because we talk about the definition of hope being the earnest expectation of something good. And if you just change even some of the basic scriptures that we know, like Romans 15:13, that says, "May the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace in believing, so that by the power of the Holy Spirit you may abound in hope." What if we we change that mindset just a little bit, even as we preach the word, and we say, may the God of expectation fill you with all joy and peace in believing, so that by the power of the Holy Spirit you may abound in earnest expectation. So now what we've done is we've spoken not just a scripture into someone's life. There's like, okay, hope, well, so I'm going to go and I'm going to pray and I'm going to wish that something good happens. No, you're going to pray in faith and you're going to expect something good to happen. Now, what happens when we do that, Reverend Moore? When we expect something good, then we start moving in the direction of the good. If we wish for something good, then we wait for something good to happen. It's just a small shift in our thinking, but expectation allows us to move expecting that something is going to change, whereas wishing causes us to just wait for it to happen before we do something.
Yeah, and that is ideally where we would want people to be. And I'm thinking about the definition that faith is the substance of things hoped for, and so for some people, faith is a little much. Um, Trying to get them to just hope for something different is a big goal, and to see something different. And so in some cases, I would say that it's probably even need to be pushed back a little bit farther just to get them to kind of see that there is hope. And that's what I was getting to when I say sometimes you just have to show people that um, you got up every day and went to school. You probably didn't get the best grades, but you got up every day and went to school. That's resiliency. That's hope. That's this idea that there's something better. You get up every day and you go to your job, get a paycheck. That takes a bit of resiliency. So you are making the steps. You have the energy. Now let's see if we can get you to imagine that being just a little bit greater. Let's see if we can get you to imagine that instead of working at for minimum wage, that you can get yourself to double that salary, maybe even just add 10 more dollars onto it. What job could you do that'll get you to add 10 more dollars to your salary so that you'll make a little bit more money? Would it mean you have to go back to school or take some training or watch a YouTube video? Because there is a lot of ways we can get information to people, but I think it starts with getting them to see that they have the resiliency and the ability to keep moving forward. They just don't have to stop where they are and be satisfied. And I know it. I'm not being critical in anybody, and this is not meant in a mean way. It's just me. I know my drive and what I want and the things that I want to achieve. But I look at people that have settled down in roles and they've been there 10, 15, 20 years and they enjoy their jobs. That's just not me. I keep on wanting to go higher and farther, and I keep on wanting to reach these new levels because I think my potential can take me there. I think I have the potential to do greater things, and so I strive to do greater things. But I think again, some people get stuck in that place, and they become content with just the day-to-day things or the normal circumstances of some things like. I'm gonna say this because I know we need to probably come up with some final thoughts. But I was listening. Well, my one listening, but my one of my cousins was posting something on Facebook about his daughters, and I was like, "Why are you using that language publicly about your daughters? They are queens." And I want to say something to change his mindset, but I know that's his mindset that's okay to say those things, and we don't realize as a people how demeaning and how those things take us back to the very things that was done to us ages ago. And so while we want to move on from the past, there's still some things from the past that's influencing the way we treat and we raise our children even today, and we need to get beyond those things. And I think finding a way to bring hope in a different way into the community. And like you, I was just thinking this morning, there are a lot of different programs out there. There's a lot of different nonprofits, but I think that's probably part of the issue. There are a lot of different nonprofits. We don't have very many that are major global nonprofit organizations that's just dedicated on helping to build the Black community or businesses. Like just one big push to bring jobs and educations into the community that will change the community. And it may not bring a lot of profit to those who are making the investment, but it would change the community overall. And I think if we can do that, we would start to change the mindset. And with that change in mindset, we can start to get people to see that there's more potential in them and in their children than they give themselves credit for. If you're speaking, Reverend Kenny, I'm not sure. I think you're muted.
Apologize for that. I want to go back to something that you said and how we can maybe, because it starts with one or two or a few individuals that are willing to speak to someone differently than maybe they have been spoken to in the past. You mentioned speaking to that person and reminding them that they're valued, that they're a queen, that they're smart, that they have potential, and speaking that into them. If they're not getting that at home, then there still has to be someone who has that responsibility. You're in that position. I'm in that position. Many of the people who are backstage right now that are watching or are great facilitators, they're in that position. And we understand how important it is to to be an encourager, to be that person that comes along and says, hey, I understand that you may have only been demeaned or you know put down your whole life, but that doesn't have to define who you are now. You may have made mistakes in the past. You may come from difficult circumstances. You may have experienced something absolutely horrible in your young life, but or in your current life, whatever age you are and whatever station you are, but that doesn't have to define your next steps. And if they don't believe it, you keep telling them and you keep reminding them and you keep showing them that with each next breath, if you have hope that goes along with your resilience, remember, you've already proven that you're tough, that you can make it, that you can endure whatever those harsh circumstances are. Now let's take it a step further and continue to remind people that they're extraordinary and they can begin to expect an extraordinary life. And they can, listen, I want to tell everyone that, it is really, all things are possible in Jesus Christ. That is the truth that we live by. Some people don't want to hear this. There may be someone backstage that they don't accept that. They don't want to believe that. But you don't have to, the truth doesn't change just because you don't believe it. The truth doesn't change just because you don't accept it. And the truth doesn't change just because you don't tell it. The truth of the matter is that all things are possible in Christ, that you can experience something that is far beyond even the limits that you've put on your own mind or your existence, or that somebody else has put upon you. And so we have to continue to teach that message and speak that message into lives. And the people who are out there, if you're in a position of leadership, you're in a position of any influence at all, find somebody that you can lift up. Find someone whose countenance may be down. Find that person who might be failing, and remind them that they have potential, that that is just for that moment. And that moment is now past. And they don't have any control over what has happened, but they absolutely have some control over what can happen next. And if they'll believe in themselves, they'll believe in God, they'll believe in their potential, they'll believe in their purpose, then they can achieve it.
And yes, and I agree. With Christ, all things are possible. But again, I think that that's built into all people. Is there is a God-given gift in my belief that everyone is given. How you use that gift and how you tap into that gift is about your relationship um, between them and God. But I also know, because getting back to this idea of resilience, this ability to keep pressing forward and to recover from setbacks and challenges, is shows our strength as a people. And that's what I really try to help people see, is that this this ability to rise above the microaggressions, the discriminations, the racism. We are one of the uh, we are probably the most um, unique culture, in the sense that we can have somebody oppress us, and we still want to like them and treat them right. After years of being oppressed, we still try to find a way to get along with our oppressor and treat them the right way. But that has to do with our desire to be resilient, to drive on, to endure, to push beyond, and to continue to be the people that we are culturally, out of our families, out of our communities, things that we have learned about ourselves as we grow up and develop. Is how we choose to treat all people, and for some reason we don't even want to treat those who treat us bad. Uh, we would rather get along and be in unique place with them. But I hope that the message is clear, that each and every individual realize that within them is this ability to just overcome, to endure, to survive. Whether you want to believe in God, whether you want to believe in evolution, whether you want to believe in what is the survival of the fitness, whatever you want to take your belief as, is your belief. But there is this drive and this ability to press on, to overcome, to endure, to survive. And because that is, or natural selection is what I was thinking about, because you have that ability to want to survive and thrive and drive on, that toughness that's within you. There's also not only the toughness of the body physically and mentally, but we can also use that same physical and mental ability to develop ourselves in ways that take us to new levels and new heights.
Well, certainly agreed. And yeah, I know that we're a little bit past 6:30. I want to close with this, and thank you for that perspective, Reverend Moore. I believe that you're spot on. We do have an amazing ability to survive, to endure, to persevere, and we've proven that over time. And now we have to take it a step further. We have to do better than just survive. We need to, and I don't want to use a cliche. We have to, not just survive, but thrive. I think that it's bigger than that, and we have to begin to think more globally. We need to start to think about, again, what is the best scenario that we can produce. Is that through education? Is that through, obviously it's through more prayer? Is that through more better partnerships and collaboration within our business community? All of those things are on the table, but we go into it without the narrative always being what's happened to us. The narrative has to change to, what are we going to do next to produce better outcomes for our now and for our sustainable future.
Sir. Yes, sir. I agree. And I'm going to let you go with this. And we can close with this last thought, because you mentioned this idea of globally. And one of the things I've wrestled with, even as I work on my dissertation, because it's on the African American male, and is grit, and using grit to overcome the barriers that they encounter. But in looking at and thinking about the African American males, one of the things I wrestle with, even with Black people in general, is how do we define Blackness? Um, and when I think about Black people, they're different cultures, different backgrounds, different music, different hairstyle, different skin color, texture, different ways of doing Christmas, whatever, Hanukkah, whatever. There's different ways of doing everything. We're just all over the map. And so there's not this one thing that identifies Blackness, because it's so rich and there's so much depthness there, for how different we are as a people. However, the one thing that does bring us together, regardless of our skin tone, is that people identify us as Black. And I think the challenge is for us to take that back. And even though we can't narrow it down to what one individual Black person is, or one Black group, but define Blackness for ourselves. What is the Black identity, and how do we want the world to see us from that particular identity? Because right now, when you hear Black, it still has somewhat of a negative connotation, and to me, I think we need to change that. We need not to rely on them to change it. We need to change it.
Amen. Thank you both. That was a wonderful conversation, and it was an honor to listen to you both, and to learn from you both in that conversation. And I think my ultimate takeaway from what you both were saying is that hope really gives us the strength to change the way we think, which gives us the resilience to change the way we act. I think so often we think of hope as a passive thing, but really what you both shared is that hope is active. And I hope that our community will understand that as well, that as we embrace that idea of hope as being an active thing, and creating the change that we are hoping for in our world, that we will move in hope, and that we will live in hope, and continue to create change and lead each other from that place of faith, of hope, and of love and belief that we not only have overcome, we are overcoming, and we will continue to overcome. That we have endured, we are enduring, and we will continue to endure, and create that change. So thank you both for this conversation. Thank you to our community that joined us this evening, and we look forward to seeing you all next time. And until then, as we always say, go in grace.
Thank you. Bless.